Room 808 of the King Marina Hotel. Emily sat on the edge of King Marina I's bed. Who was introduced as my sister. Emily endured the pain that felt like her whole body was being torn apart, cursing the demon in the hotel in her heart. She gritted her teeth and went up to the second floor, deliberately slowing down her footsteps as she approached Sarah's door. She leaned on the door and listened for a while. Every hair on her body stood up. She wondered why that bastard Michael didn't go to the appointment today. It turns out he couldn't wait and came to her sister's room. He was really thirsty. Couldn't he just open a hotel? Or maybe, just like last time, he came specifically to put on a show for her. Without hesitation, Emily kicked open the door with a loud bang, startling the couple on the bed. The scene on the bed shattered the bottom line of Emily's understanding of human morals. When she found out that Michael was having an affair with Sarah, she thought the relationship had just begun and was still at the stage of embracing. Who would have thought that they had already ended up in bed together? Just like now. Both of them were completely naked, hugging each other tightly like conjoined twins.
Emily!
Sarah saw her trembling in fear and hurriedly separated from Michael. After putting on her clothes, she rushed to the door and hugged Emily's arm tightly.
Emily, you have to believe me. Things are not what you think. Really, you must believe me.
Tears welled up in Sarah's watery eyes, and she anxiously grabbed Emily's sleeve, looking pitiful. To be honest, a half-month ago, Emily really liked the sister brought by her stepmother. Sarah was extremely beautiful and gentle. In the 10 years she had been in the Emily family, she had been very good to her. She never competed with her for anything, patiently tutored her in her studies, and even took the blame for her when she got into trouble as a child. Emily had even boasted to her friends that this sister of hers was even closer than her real sister, but everything changed half a month ago. On that day, she was in school when she received a call from Sarah saying she was sick and to come back quickly. Without much thought, she only worried that Sarah might be experiencing some kind of emergency. So she stood up in the middle of the class without saying anything and rushed out. But when she arrived home, she didn't find the sick person. Instead, she saw Sarah leaning on Michael, crying softly.
Why am I so unlucky? She's always been better than me, and now she wants to take away the person I love the most. Michael, I can't take it anymore. We love each other, but she insists on taking you away from me. I hate her. Always have. I don't want to pretend anymore. Michael, save me.
In that moment, Emily finally realized that the good sister she had bragged about, deep down, actually hated her, and the person this sister loved was Michael. Looking at Sarah at this moment, the words she said that day echoed in my mind. A trace of coldness flashed across Emily's delicate face, and she disdainfully let go of Sarah's hand, sneering.
What is that supposed to be? Okay, Sarah, why are you pretending when your true colors are already exposed?
Emily, who do you think you are to say that about Sarah?
Michael is overly protective of Sarah. Michael immediately grabbed Emily's arm and shoved her aside. Emily stumbled and almost fell towards the staircase, but she managed to grab the railing and stabilize herself.
Michael, you clearly promised to meet me tonight. Why didn't you go? Tell me, why didn't you go?
Remembering the events of tonight, Emily became somewhat uncontrollable. Michael smirked coldly.
Why would I go? Before I wanted you, but you wouldn't give in. Now that I have Sarah, I don't even care if you're standing there naked in front of me.
You.
Emily wished she could crush this man between her teeth.
Emily, let me tell you the truth. The only reason I got involved with you in the first place was because you were the young miss of the I family. But things have changed now. Sarah is also a legitimate young miss of the I family. Did you know that?
Michael, please stop.
Sarah cried, biting her lip and shaking her head desperately. Michael glanced at her and said,
Sarah, what are you afraid of? Your mother's been dead for so many years. What are you still afraid of? Now you are the mistress of the I family. Your mother is in charge, and you are your father's legitimate daughter. What are you afraid of?
No, please stop. I beg you.
Sarah said, lowering her gaze and concealing the unusual glimmer in her eyes. Emily stared wide-eyed, looking at the two people in front of her as if they were aliens. After a while, she coldly smiled and pointed at Sarah's nose, cursing.
You, the third party, who gave you the right to claim that you're Dad's biological daughter?
Upon hearing the words third party, Sarah's eyes widened with tears.
No, I'm not. I'm not the third party. Emily, listen carefully. I'm not.
Sarah, do you have no shame? Not satisfied with stealing someone else's man? Now you want to steal father too?
Emily's eyes flashed with coldness, and her crystal-clear gaze was filled with disdain for Sarah. Sarah bit her lip tightly, remained silent for a full 5 minutes, and then seemed to gather the courage to speak, gritting her teeth.
Emily, you better listen carefully too. I am not some third party. I am Dad's daughter, his biological daughter. My mom and Dad were legally married, but it was your mother's appearance that forced my dad to temporarily leave us.
What did you say?
Emily was stunned, her voice also wavering. Sarah chuckled coldly.
You think your mother died of an illness? How naive you are, Emily. Let me tell you, I've endured enough all these years. Today, I will make you understand who the real young mistress is in this family.
She took a step forward and slapped Emily across the face. After a while, she coldly smiled and pointed at Sarah's nose, cursing.
You dare to hit me? How dare you hit me?
Emily roared twice, wanting nothing more than to tear apart this third party who always pretended to be a meek and submissive daughter-in-law. However, before she could make her move, Sarah herself rushed towards her. She tightly grabbed Emily's shoulders and swiftly turned around, bringing her towards the staircase.
Emily, just go and die. Once you're gone, no one will argue with me anymore.
Watching the seemingly fragile Sarah unleash an astonishing burst of strength, within 2 seconds, she had pushed Emily to the edge of the steps. Emily desperately tried to maintain her balance and prevent herself from rolling down. Then, she grabbed Sarah's arm and forcefully pushed her away. Taking advantage of this opening, she took a step to the side. But before she could catch her breath, she heard a scream of agony. It turned out that Sarah, unable to control her forward, leaning body due to the inertia, had fallen down the steps.
Sarah!
Michael hurriedly followed but was unable to stop Sarah from rolling into a ball. Sarah's cries of pain echoed throughout the I family mansion, and in Emily's eyes, a tinge of blood appeared. That bloodstain was seeping out from Sarah's lower body. As a medical student, Emily keenly noticed the unusual color. She stared at Sarah, who was clutching onto Michael's clothes.
Michael, it hurts so much. Our child?
After 6 years, in the suburbs of Z City, in an inconspicuous 2-story building, Emily, holding a test tube, sneezed twice.
Emily, which wild man is thinking about you again?
A mischievous little boy beside her asked, dancing and laughing. Without hesitation, Emily slapped his furry little head.
Nico, please remember that I am your mother, and please show me basic respect. Stop calling me a wild man, or people will think I'm vulgar and unable to educate my child.
Nico casually picked up a bottle containing an unknown liquid and looked at it.
Am I wrong? Emily, you should thank me. This week, I secretly dealt with 2 men who had their eyes on you.
Nico looked proud, but Emily's attention had already returned to the test tube. She responded indifferently.
Oh, tell me about it.
Nico became interested.
The first one looks like a groundhog, so I caught 100 mice and secretly placed them in his bed. He got scared and ended up in the hospital. He hasn't come out yet. The second one is even more exaggerated. He has a wife and a lover, but he still comes to see you. I didn't do much, just sent his love letter to his wife and lover, along with the lover's photo. Now, I guess they're all fighting with each other.
Nico,
Emily couldn't bear it any longer and shouted.
can you please be civilized? Where's your dignity? Are you feeding dogs? You're only 5 years old. Please stay innocent. Thank you.
Well, Mommy, I'm sorry. I've been completely influenced by you.
All right, now get out of here and don't disturb me while I'm doing the experiment.
Emily dismissed him, and as she dragged him out by his ear, Nico suddenly shouted,
Oh, Mommy, I remembered something. There's a big deal coming. Lots of money, Mommy.
As expected, Emily's grip on his ear loosened. Emily crossed her arms and fixed her gaze on Nico. Nico blinked his bright, star-like eyes and said,
This morning, when you were out, Matthew came and said he wanted to introduce you to a big business. It seems like some awesome rich guy in the coastal city has some hidden illness and wants you to treat him. If you cure him, you'll get this much money.
Nico raised his chubby little hand, his eyes glowing green.
5 million?
Emily was also stunned.
What kind of awesome rich guy would give so much money?
Nico nodded eagerly.
Yeah, that's what Matthew said. So, Emily, let's go quickly.
Of course they had to go. It was 5 million, and it would be a shame to miss out on it. And besides, why would someone offer so much money?
Emily reached out and touched her smooth chin, thinking of calling Matthew later to clarify.
But the place they had to go was the coastal city. That place?
Emily, are you scared?
Nico interrupted her thoughts with mocking tone.
Scared? Scared of what? Come on, don't make me laugh. Who do you think I am? What do I have to be scared of? Yeah.
She forced a laugh. Nico glanced at her.
Admit it, Emily. Your eyes have betrayed your heart. You're afraid to go back to the coastal city. Because my dad is there, right?
The 2 words deadly pierced into Emily's mind like steel wires, causing a sharp pain in her head.
Well, didn't I already tell you? Your dad is...
She said, but before she could finish, Nico interrupted her.
In heaven, you've said it 1,001 times. But Mommy, please use your brain. That kind of talk is meant to deceive children. I'm not easily fooled.
Emily looked guilty and replied to the little brat.
Well, you're only 5 years old.
So what if I'm 5? I have strong analytical abilities? Forget it. It's useless to explain this to someone with an IQ and brain that are not proportional. Anyway, I'm going to pack my thing.
Emily grabbed Nico like a slippery eel.
I've made up my mind. I'm going on my own. You stay at home with Uncle Matthew.
Without paying any attention to Nico's wailing, she left the experimental equipment behind and started packing. Bin Hai Say, 6 years later, it was time to settle some nets. A day later, at Bin Hai Airport. As soon as Emily walked out of the exit, she was stopped by a man dressed in black from head to toe.
Are you Emily?
Yes.
John has been waiting for you for a long time. Follow me.
Oh, could you please tell me your name?
My name is Jason. John sent me to pick you up.
Replied the man with the dark face. Jason? Matthew mentioned that when she arrived in Bin Hai City, there would be a man named Ethan to pick her up. Why is this Jason showing up instead? Doubts started to arise in Emily's mind, causing her to hesitate even more. The man with the dark face grew impatient and urged her on, causing her suspicions to deepen. Just as she was thinking about how to escape, a man walked towards them briskly.
Miss Emily.
Before Emily could react, the man with the dark face grabbed her and desperately ran towards the side door. Damn, was she being kidnapped? What kind of person was the one who was supposed to treat her? So many people seemed determined to prevent him from surviving. Realizing what was happening, Emily struggled fiercely to free herself from the grasp of the man with the dark face. At first, he dragged her along as they ran, but then he decided it wasn't enough. He reached out with his long arms and lifted her up, tightly holding her like a chicken. This man seemed to have skin as thick as a wall, and Emily's attempts to defend herself, despite having some self-defense skills, were as ineffective as tickling him. Filled with anger, pinched her nose and mustered up her courage to bite the man. As she sank her teeth into him, Emily put all her strength into it. Jason cried out in pain and instinctively loosened his grip on her. At the same time, a man who had been chasing after them delivered a swift and beautiful sweeping kick to Jason's leg. Jason fell forward, and Emily slid out from beneath his arm like a graceful mermaid. Fortunately, the man who had come to her rescue acted quickly and caught her, preventing her from having an intimate encounter with the marble floor. Jason, on the other hand, was quickly subdued by 2 other men. The man who had just saved her stood before Emily, his eyes seemingly piercing through her like x-rays.
Emily, the disciple of the ghost doctor.
Emily replied, lowering her head and adjusting her clothes, her tone unfriendly.
Hello, I'm Ethan. The boss sent me to pick you up.
Half an hour later, Emily met her patient in a luxurious villa.
Boss, Miss Emily has arrived.
Ethan reported, standing by his side. Emily stared at the man standing with his back against the window. Judging from his silhouette, he appeared to be in his 30s, over 6 feet tall, and dressed in a white suit that accentuated his exclusive and noble aura. If his face matched the impression from his back, Emily thought he would be the epitome of a perfect man. However, when the man turned around and she saw his face clearly, everything seemed to crumble and the world shattered in an instant. Are you kidding me? This man? Wasn't he the man she had a one-night stand with 6 years ago? Although 6 years is a long time, but this face she will not be wrong. Slanting sword eyebrow, sharp deep eyes, sexy and slightly cold thin lips. If not him, or who else? God. Really did not think that. Nico. That guy's father's so a prominent figure. But what about his hidden illness? Emily lowered her head sheepishly. She single-handedly knew that the world was small, but she didn't expect it to be small to this extent, returning after 6 years and bumping into Nico's dad at the first sight. God, you're napping again here, aren't you? However, looking at the man's face, it seems like he doesn't recognize her. Hey. That's right. That night, she wore extremely heavy makeup, and the lighting in the room was that ambiguous yellow. Well, it's normal not to recognize her. Instantly, Emily's heart fell to the ground again. Anyway, Nico looks more like her. Can't see the shadow of this dead man at all. What else is she filming? As soon as Nathan turned around, he realized that the woman in front of him was staring at his face like she had Alzheimer's disease. He frowned slightly, and his voice was as temperatureless as if it was dipped in ice.
Emily, I didn't pay you to sell your dementia.
Emily froze and immediately returned to her senses. Damn, the tongue is quite poisonous.
This is the first step of my medical consultation. What do you know?
Emily craned her neck and threw him a glance that don't pretend if you don't know something. The furrow between Nathan's eyebrows deepened. His long body moved slightly, elegantly swaying in front of Emily, sneeringly whispering.
I hope your medical skills are as good as your mouth.
At the mention of medical skills, Emily finally remembered the purpose of her coming here today. 6 years ago, she was the one who had caused him to become impotent. It certainly wasn't hard to heal, but...
This gentleman, before I treat you, I have a request.
Oh.
Nathan narrowed his eyes, coming to attention. Emily lowered her head to meet Nathan's crystal-clear eyes, then raised her head and showed her teeth with a smile.
The consultation fee is increased by 5 million, a total of 10 million.
Ethan, who was standing at the side, choked on his own saliva and coughed. Slowing down, he didn't hold back and interjected.
Emily, you're sitting on your hands.
I'm clearly standing.
Emily guffawed. Ethan stared at her petrified. Even the corners of Nathan's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Emily lifted her steps toward Nathan, and the closer she leaned against the man, the more Emily felt the air pressure in the room was a little high. So high that she had to take a few more breaths to keep her thumping heart down. Standing still and tilting her head back to Nathan, she squeezed out a self-professed elegant smile.
Firstly, being kidnapped just after getting off the plane means that treating you is risky. The consultation fee deserves to be doubled. Also,
Speaking here, she actually raised her hand, extended a finger, and pressed it onto Nathan's eyebrows. That slightly cool finger pressed between the eyebrows. Nathan, as if suddenly cast a spell of soul fixation, generally immobile, just staring at her, listening to her speaking.
the darkness of the...
Forehead.
In addition to that aspect of the problem, you are also poisoned.
An hour later, inside the laboratory of a private clinic, Emily pinched the report sheet and handed it to Nathan.
Read it yourself.
Though Nathan took it, he didn't scan it, only stared at Emily.
Speak clearly.
It's simple. Your blood analysis report shows that your body contains a large dose of psychotropic drugs. If you take this drug, you won't die for a while, but it will affect your nervous system. In as many as half a year or as few as 3 months, you will inevitably develop mental problems. Well, to put it in layman's terms, you will become a psychopath.
Despite the man's face having turned as black as coal, Emily thought for a moment and reiterated her request.
So my request for double the consultation fee is justified. Without me, your fate would be miserable.
Miss Emily, don't exaggerate.
Seeing this arrogant woman in front of him, Ethan could stand it and interjected. Emily ignored him and looked at Nathan.
Have you been unable to sleep lately? Do you have trouble falling asleep and often have nightmares?
Nathan's handsome face darkened slightly. After a moment of silence, he nodded.
Yes.
Has this been happening for the past month and getting worse?
Yes.
So, do you believe me or not?
For some reason, even though this man in front of her didn't appear to be a good person, Emily wasn't afraid of him. Could it be because of their one-night stand 6 years ago? He was her first and only man, which inexplicably gave her a sense of familiarity with him. Emily felt irrational, but no matter what, this man was still Nico's father. She couldn't just let him ascend to heaven without doing anything. Besides, even though he treated her poorly back then, Nico still loved and cared for him deeply. Taking all of this into consideration, she didn't bear any grudges against him anymore. Just as she was thinking about this, a gentle yet husky voice sounded in her ears.
I believe you.
Boss.
Ethan exclaimed, but Nathan raised his hand, signaling him to stop talking. Emily took out a tissue and wiped her hands, confirming the issue of money again.
A consultation fee of 10 million?
Not a penny less.
Nathan's straightforwardness surprised her a bit. After a few seconds of stunned silence, she grinned.
All right then, start with a deposit of $2 million.
Nathan nodded without any unnecessary words. Emily continued.
Also, I have some additional conditions. First, help me prepare a laboratory for my work. It will make things easier for me. Secondly, I will find you when I need you. But please don't interfere with my activities otherwise.
Is that all?
For now.
Then,
Nathan paused for a moment, walked up to Emily, and lowered his eyes to directly meet her gaze.
shouldn't I make some demands as well?
You have more demands?
Emily widened her eyes and exclaimed. Nathan's lips twitched, and a faint mocking smile appeared in his eyes.
I paid $10 million. Shouldn't I make some demands?
After thinking about it, it seemed reasonable. Emily agreed.
Go ahead then.
Live with me. Go in and out together. Eat and sleep together.
Not just Emily, even Ethan was dumbfounded.
What? What do you mean? Are you trying to support me?
Please forgive Emily's impure thoughts. Who can have pure thoughts after hearing the words live together, go in and out together, eat and sleep together? But then again, he couldn't do anything more, so what was the point of supporting a woman?
Hey, don't get any wrong ideas. I mean, in that aspect, it's quite normal.
The whole world fell silent. For a good 5 minutes, the sound of broken glass was the only thing heard in the spacious laboratory. Until, due to excessive shock, Ethan accidentally knocked over a glass bottle. In the sound of shattering glass, Nathan grabbed Emily's waist.
What aspect of mine is normal?
This man's aura was too overwhelming, leaving Emily unsure how to respond. Nathan's face was covered with a thin layer of dust, looking dull and gray. After a stalemate for a while, he finally let go of Emily.
You're overthinking. I just want to use your help to find out who poisoned me. Besides, I'll tell you more after it's done.
There was no emotion in his tone, but his words were thoughtful. This woman only cares about money. The best way to shut her up is with money. Emily tilted her head and thought for a moment.
Deal.
Anyway, he couldn't perform, so what was there to be afraid of? Honestly, just as Nathan turned around, she stopped him again.
But you have to provide me with a dedicated car. I still have private matters to attend to, besides going out with you.
Nathan looked down at the fair little hand holding onto his sleeve and frowned slightly.
Fine.
Emily grinned and happily let go of his hand. Then, she saw Ethan giving her a thumbs up behind Nathan. So far, she was the only woman who had ever been close to their boss without being thrown out by him. She's really a unique one. Ethan's admiration for Emily was endless. After leaving the clinic, Nathan had someone send Emily back to the villa while he took Ethan to another place. That night, Emily had a good sleep in the guest room at Nathan's house. Rich people are really rich. The bed was so soft and comfortable, making her want to sleep as soon as her head touched the pillow. But before sleeping, she still needed to think about what to do tomorrow. She woke up when it was dawn. When she got up, the servant told her that Nathan was waiting for her in the study and asked her to have breakfast before going there. When she arrived at the study, she saw Nathan reading a book, so she approached him.
I thought about it last night, and the poison in your body is not a big problem. As long as you don't continue to take it and take some other medicines to regulate it, you'll be fine soon. Now the most important thing is to find out who poisoned you. It's not difficult.
Nathan's gaze moved away from the book and looked at the self-confident woman in front of him, and suddenly, a strange feeling crossed his mind. Why did he suddenly feel a sense of familiarity with this woman? Looking at her, it's like he has known her for a long time. Furrowing his brows, he withdrew his thoughts and stood up.
What's your solution?
Emily smiled.
There's no need for a fancy solution. Your symptoms indicate that the person who poisoned you didn't give you such a large dose at once, but rather gradually over time. The only person around you who can continuously poison you like this is the person who cooks for you. By the way, do you live here permanently? Do you have all your meals here?
Getting confirmation, she came to a conclusion.
So, the most likely person is the one who cooks for you, Mr. Nathan. From here on, I don't need to do anything, right?
If you can't find out such a simple matter, then you might as well give up. Nathan nodded.
Indeed, it should be easy.
All right, if there's nothing else, I'll leave. By the way, where's my car?
Emily pretended to leave, but thought for a moment and asked, as if it were only natural. Nathan's brows furrowed again as soon as he just relaxed.
Where are you going?
Taking care of some personal matters.
The car's in the garage. Choose one yourself. But what personal matters are you taking care of?
Nathan stood up, walked around to face Emily, and created a sense of oppression again.
I hope you haven't forgotten why I invited you here.
Emily drove the cool sports car with Nathan's voice and raced all the way to Emily's house. 6 years passed in an instant, and now she was standing at the door again. The scene from 6 years ago still vivid in her mind. When Sarah fell downstairs and was sent to the hospital after her pregnancy was revealed and she had a miscarriage, her own pregnancy was exposed. Unexpectedly, her parents did not blame Sarah, but instead blamed Emily. Robert, who had always been kind to her, even slapped her twice. Emily remembered that it was the first time Robert had ever hit her. The bloodstains on her lips had not dried yet, but she heard Robert yell at her.
Emily, get out of here. Go as far away as possible. From now on, Emily's family has nothing to do with you.
That night, 6 years ago, she just turned and ran away like that. She didn't even ask what Sarah meant by saying those things before. Now thinking about it, she finds herself a little ridiculous back then. That whole family wished for her to disappear, but she was foolishly adorable and chose to escape without a fight. The Yee family villa was still the same as 6 years ago, and the person who opened the door was still the same as 6 years ago.
Miss, you're back.
Evelyn couldn't believe it, and tears welled up in her eyes once she confirmed that it was Emily. Emily smiled at her and responded lightly.
Yes, it's me. Are they here?
Madam and Miss are here. Martha has gone to the company.
The titles have changed. Evelyn used to call Sarah Miss Sarah, but now she called her Miss instead. Emily's heart sank, but she remained calm on the surface.
All right, I'll go in and find them.
She walked in. Just as she reached the door, she heard bang, as if something porcelain had shattered. Emily frowned, and Evelyn whispered beside her.
It's Miss. She dropped the medicine bowl again.
Medicine bowl?
Yes, she can't get pregnant, and she has been drinking the bitter remnants of medicine for years.
Evelyn shook her head and sighed. Looking at Emily, Emily remembered what happened 6 years ago, and a cold smile appeared on her lips. She turned to Evelyn and said,
You go about your business. I'll go in and take a look.
All right, be careful.
Evelyn had watched Emily grow up and genuinely cared for this child who had lost her mother at a young age. So she didn't go in to report and let Emily go in alone. As she walked in, the furious scolding inside became clearer.
Mom, what should I do? It's been 6 years. I'm almost 30. If I don't get pregnant soon, will I still be able to have children?
Sarah, there's nothing we can do about it. This condition is difficult to treat and you keep breaking the medicine bowl. How can you get pregnant if you don't take the medicine?
Step. Mother Jennifer advised earnestly, but Sarah continued to ignore her and shouted even more sharply.
What do you mean there's nothing we can do? It's all because of that little bitch Emily. If it weren't for her, how could I have had a miscarriage? How could I have injured my uterus and become unable to have children? Mom, do you know that those 2 old folks from the Michael family always make things difficult for me? And now even Michael is losing patience with me? Just last month, he was rumored to be involved with a female employee from a company. And this week, I saw him exchanging flirtatious text messages with some third-rate female celebrity. These are just the things I know. Who knows how many more I don't know?
All right, Sarah, stop causing a scene. Mom knows you've been wronged. Don't worry, as long as that little bitch dares to come back, Mom will definitely deal with her and let you breathe a sigh of relief.
Standing at the door, listening to Sarah call her a little bitch repeatedly, Emily surprisingly didn't feel any anger. Right now, she is curious about how Jennifer plans to help Sarah vent her anger. After pausing for a few seconds, Emily took a step forward and climbed the steps with a faint smile on her lips.
That was impressive. I didn't expect that after 6 years, your desire for battle is still so strong. I wonder how you plan to deal with me?
As Jennifer and Robert watched Emily descend from above like a heavenly being, they were stunned. It took a moment for Robert, who had suppressed her hatred for 6 years, to suddenly explode. Like a wild mother tiger, she dashed forward and grabbed Emily's shoulder.
You dare to come back! You dare to come back! Give me back my child!
Sarah's eyes turned red, almost popping out of their sockets. Emily did not dodge, just turned her head to coldly look at the hand on her shoulder.
Why should I care about your child? It was you who had an affair with Michael 6 years ago, and it was your plan to push me down the stairs, but you ended up following your sound. I really don't understand why you blame me for that.
Emily said indifferently, making Sarah's face turn green with anger.
How dare you say it's not your business? How dare you? How dare you speak that?
Sarah let go of her hand and raised it to slap Emily. However, with a swift movement, Emily dodged Sarah's attack. Standing firm, she taunted.
Sarah, how have you turned into a vulgar woman in these few years? I think it's better if you go back to your old self. At least you won't frighten people.
The Sarah from 6 years ago, except for that night, was really gentle and dignified, bowing her head and letting others take the lead without uttering a sound. But now, Emily thought for a moment, then smiled and said,
Time really is butcher's knife.
Seeing Emily's smiling face, Sarah clenched her fist in anger, wanting to hit her again. However, her eyes fell on a small potted plant next to her. Without thinking, she picked up the plant pot and smashed it towards Emily's head. Emily wasn't expecting this move and reacted slowly. She partially dodged it, but a red scar was left on her face. After being bullied by this woman for 6 years, if she let it happen again, she might as well die. So, as Emily regained her composure, she immediately planned to retaliate. But before she could find anything to throw at Sarah, she saw someone. With a change of mind, she ran towards that person and hugged him, crying. The person was none other than Robert. As soon as he entered the door, hearing the argument, he wanted to see what was happening. Unexpectedly, someone rushed towards him and hugged him. It was only when he pulled the person off him that he realized who it was.
Emily?
Robert was surprised, and Emily, with tears streaming down her face, looked at him pitifully.
Dad, it's me. I'm back. Dad, I'm sorry. 6 years ago, I was too headstrong. I ran away from home without caring about anything after being scolded by you. I was wrong, Dad. Can you forgive me?
Emily wrapped her arms around Robert's body once again, and in the process, shed a large amount of tears on his expensive designer suit. Robert looked down at Emily, his eyebrows deeply furrowed.
Emily, stop crying for now.
He said, holding Emily's shoulders. With teary eyes, Emily looked at him, her pink lips trembling slightly. Robert looked at her face and frowned even more.
What happened to your face?
He was referring to the blood marks of Sarah's potted plant. Emily immediately smoked it again.
It is. They threw a potted plant to smash me.
Sure enough, Robert's face was immediately black. As Karine and Sarah came out, Emily glanced at Sarah, shrunk behind Robert in fear and shouted,
Daddy, Daddy.
The small action made Robert's heart feel as if he had been poked by something, and it hurt faintly. When he looked at Sarah again, his gaze became a little more stern.
What are you doing? She's your sister. How can you smash her with potted plant? What is this like?
Sarah froze for a moment and looked at Robert incredulously.
Dad, are you helping her? Don't you know what she did to me before? If it weren't for her, how would I be hiding in my house every day to take those hard-to-swallow medicines?
The first 2 years were okay. She and Michael are in a lovely and honey relationship. But in recent 2 years, the novelty has passed, and Michael has not been so patient with her, and even hinted more than once that she should not simmer Chinese medicine at home, and he can't stand the strange smell. Sarah is not an idiot, and she knows that it is most important to grasp her husband's heart at this time, so there was no way. So I had to take all the medicine to my own house and simmer it. Today is also Emily's coincidence. Sarah drinking Chinese medicine is just when she's annoyed. She broke in, undoubtedly touching her mold. After Sarah finished speaking, Karen saw that Robert had a bad face and immediately hit the circle.
Robert, the pouring is not intentional. Emily, this kid speaks rushingly. Pouring his face is not in a bad mood.
Hearing these words, Emily still didn't say anything, just sniffed twice, and rubbed Robert. By the way, no matter what Emily looked like 6 years ago, her kitten-like actions now give Robert a preconceived impression of being a father. That is, today she was really bullied. After all, it was his father. After all, he had not seen him for 6 years, and Robert's heart softened. He glared at Karen.
Okay, don't talk about it. It's good if Emily comes back. You go and clean up her room. And Emily, you come in with your father and tell me where you've been doing all these years.
He took the initiative to take Emily's hand, but Emily suddenly withdrew it.
Dad, I'm sorry, I can't live in the house yet. I have time to tell you about the past few years. Today I went first.
She turned her head and covered her mouth and left. Robert frowned and grabbed her.
You kid, what else are you making trouble?
Emily stopped. Her eyes filled with tears again.
Dad, you better calm them first. When they stop being angry with me, I'll come back. Anyway, I'm fine now. Don't worry.
These words made Robert feel a pain in his heart, and before he could say anything, Emily had already broken free of his hand and ran out. Emily doesn't want to live in the I family. Only by living here and getting along with these people day and night can she find out the truth about her mother's death that year, right? But not now. Nathan also ordered her to go out and eat and sleep together. Although she is not afraid of him, this man is not a good lord. So when she could not mess with him, Emily felt that she better not mess with him. As for his hidden diseases, thinking of this, the gloomy emotions that had just accumulated in her heart actually dissipated. By the way, when I go back next time, I'll go to the Chinese medicine store and grab some medicine to tune up that man.